Best practices today are viewed in terms of a system of supports. And what that system of supports means is that there are various components that have come out of human performance management, out of a lot of management literature that says these are the components that are going to impact your outcomes. Whether or not those outcomes are personal outcomes as we define them, or organization efficiency outputs, these are some of the components to the majority of components to a system of support. So as you're thinking about that redefinition process, take a look at your policies. I mean, public policies at the macro level are being analyzed, but look at your own organization policies. I was impressed over the last 2 days with how many of the self-advocates were on a board of directors. And that really is another major redefinitional process. And are there other policies within your organization that inhibit opportunities and incentives as opposed to facilitating policies and or opportunities and incentives? The natural support system is really that bridge to the community notion. One of the interesting things that happens when you get into quality of life is you sort of immediately start looking at the society, at the community, to see, are there generic agencies that we can partner with? And those generic agencies might be universities for research purposes. They might be home health for healthcare, and on it goes. As much as possible, the family, friends, and colleagues, that's a given. And it's easier said than done, but nevertheless, we got to always keep in mind that we are not the sole provider of various kinds of services and supports. And note what natural supports do: social integration. So let's say that your low score is social inclusion, which is true for most agencies. Why might that be? Well, might we be able to do right to left thinking and say, hey, we've got low social inclusion. What needs to be in place for those scores to increase? I'll guarantee you one thing, that you as an agency will never increase those scores, never, if you don't start having this. Because that's where social inclusion is going to take place. It's not going to be what your staff do. They may provide the opportunities, and they may provide the experiences, but the real bang for the buck is going to come from here. And that's why I think it's such a huge barrier, maybe a strong word, but challenge is maybe a better word, to bump up that social inclusion. Because that's where the rubber hits the road in terms of integrating a group of people into society that historically have been segregated from society. Staff directed. These two areas here, and your comment earlier where you said that you're dealing with a lot of folks that come from the institution, they're high need people, they have a lot of behavioral challenges, probably a lot of medical challenges, et cetera, et cetera. You're going to get your bumps here and here, initially at least. So it's the skills and knowledge. Here's one that you might want to look at very, very closely, the positive behavioral supports. Because if you have a lot of behaviorally impaired people, and you probably do, consequently, the issue is, can we improve their quality of life by really implementing this full board? And this is a process I'm sure you looked at, you're probably doing it, certainly from the quality. It is a best practice. But yet it's those behavioral challenging people that take 85% of your time on any given day. The reality is that staff are going to attend to challenging behavior, and they should. But the question is, how do they do that? Do they really look at antecedents and antecedent cue recognition? And do they try to prevent things from happening as opposed to respond to things when they happen? And that can have a tremendous bump in terms of behavioral skills and motivation. Technology-based, if you have low-functioning folks, think about technology as a way to enhance cognitive function. Language is an obvious one. Computers is another. Calculators is another. Okay, prosthetics. I'm sure you're heavy into prosthetics, and because that's the way that we can really enhance that sensory motor function, but also the environmental accommodation issue of looking at the positioning of chairs, can people with ramps, handy bars, etc. Then we come into professional services, and that used to be what this field was all about. But as I mentioned yesterday morning and repeat now, you know, professional services are so different today than they were then. I mean, this is a part of a system of support, but it's not all that we do. And so as this one characteristic then of a redefined organization, you're going to find yourself becoming much more of a coordinator of this whole thing. Some of which will be in the community, some of which will be contracting with professionals, some of which will be probably contracting with information tech people to help you do that real-time analyses, etc. And so that role is going to be a very transformational role for you.